All right. Well, welcome to another episode of Fuck You Friday. I'm your host, Wynn Silberman. This is my co-host, Casey LeBlanc, and I am super excited, Casey, to be able to host Mikaela Mayer, an Olympian, WBO boxing champion.
For your winner by unanimous decision and new WBO junior lightweight champion of the world, Mikaela Mayer.
Very excited to dig into things, but Mikaela, and thank you for coming here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Before we get into things, I always like to have Casey give a little context as to why we're here.
Okay.
Because I really haven't told you yet.
Okay.
So let's kind of get that out of the way, and then I'm excited to move forward and talk a little bit and see what happens.
Right on.
So Fuck You Friday is a podcast that is about elite athletes or people doing elite things in their life, and some of the things, whether they be conscious or unconsciously doing, that we can extract so people can either learn or be entertained. And so the Friday concept is like, okay, what are you doing on Fridays to set yourself up for the week? Or most people are typically not doing things on Friday. It's more of like a third day of the weekend, which is a little bit, depending upon what your lifestyle is, it rubs me the wrong way. So anyways, we're super excited to have, as you just so eloquently put before we started rolling, it is our first female on the show. So we're really excited because we want to, obviously you've done things at the top level, and so we want to understand, and we were talking about it at lunch, is what are you doing, and maybe even things that you don't even recognize that you're doing that's elite, and how we can learn from that. So we'll just kind of jump right in. I mean, we want to know a little bit about you. Like, tell us where you're from and give us some background.
Your origin a little bit. Yeah, where are you from?
Well, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley of California, so Woodland Hills. 3 sisters, or 2 sisters, I'm the third. Mm-hmm. My dad raised us most of the time. And when we were about teenagers, we moved out to downtown LA. He was an artist. He worked for Mattel Toys for 30 years, so come from a little artsy hipster family.
Sure.
Of course you were going to be a boxer then.
Yeah, no, that didn't really fit the mold.
Let's stop right there. How does this happen? Just in the context, boxing. The first thing I think about, in the classification of women's sports is not necessarily that boxing would be the traditional push that mainstream would bend you towards. It'd be maybe AYSO soccer or softball
They do AYSO soccer.
No, I'm saying, but traditionally,
what
did you gravitate towards first, and how did this all?
Well, usually you're right. Boxers, either your grandfather boxed or your father boxed, or some type of boxing in your family. That wasn't the case for me. I grew up a little bit of a troubled teenager, kind of hopping around. I was in my 4th high school by the time I hit my senior year. Wasn't really focused on anything, despite my dad did the best he could as a single dad. I mean, he had us in sports growing up our whole life.
So 4th high school in LA? In LA,
Was that from whooping people's ass?
Yeah, can you give me an example of why you got give me some stories here. Yeah.
Well, I did get kicked out of my first high school for getting into a fight.
Boy or girl?
It was a girl.
Okay.
Who won?
Well, me, of course.
Well, give me context. This is fun. I like this.
It was actually, it was 2 people I fought.
Oh my God.
I knew it.
And it was one of my old friends, some drama, teenage high school drama. So I ended up kicking zero tolerance, where I went to school, El Camino High School.
Okay.
And got kicked out, sent over to Taft. Was there for a little while. Ended up going to homeschool. I convinced my dad to let me go to homeschool. Which made me fall behind even more, because now, my dad was gone before I woke up on his way to work and home at nighttime, so it was my job to get myself to school.
That's my favorite type of school.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if I wasn't being forced to go to school and now I'm at home having to do my homework on my own, that wasn't going to happen. So I fell pretty far behind, ended up in continuation school, which is that small little school attached to the big school where all the bad kids go.
Yeah.
That's where I ended up. And that was sort of like a turning point in my life, where I was 16 years old at that time, and I was like, I just want to be successful. I want to be good at something. I don't want to. They told me I was be stuck in the school for an extra year, so I'd be a super senior, right? And I said, the fuck, I'm not. I guess I can say that for on this show.
Yes, you can say anything you want.
Yeah, we actually encourage it.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, no, hell, I'm not. So I said, let me just start by trying something new. Let me get back into a sport. My dad always had me in sports growing up. Let me do something productive with my time.
Did you see sports as just reflecting? So you're at this moment, you're like, fuck this, right? I'm not going to just sit around and mope around. Mm-hmm. You saw sports as kind of if you reflected back and had some frame of reference, like, well, at least was it in your thought process that, well, these sports gave me some context of
Yeah.
purpose? Is that what?
Yeah, my dad, we would run 5Ks in the weekend when I was younger. He was our soccer coach for AYSO and track and field. He put me in gymnastics. So he always had us in sports. And I thought, okay, how do I get back to structure? Let me get back into a sport. It was just my first thought. Let me try something new. And I always saw this Muay Thai kickboxing gym down the street from my house, right off of like Shoup and Canoga, like right where I lived. And I just said, I'm going to walk in there and sign myself up. So I walked in there, I talked to the guy at the front, and I said, you know, I never half-ass anything. So even though I was completely on the other side of the spectrum, like not wanting to work out, I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day.
You're smoking
partying,
cigarettes.
Drinking with my friends, doing whatever the hell I wanted. And so when I walked in there, I said, am I too old to start competing?
At 16.
I had just turned 17,
Okay.
and the head coach goes, well, how old are you? I'm like, I just turned 17. He said, well, you're a little late to start, but you know, you can get in here and work out, and we'll see how it goes. And that, to me, obviously, right away, I was like, well.
It was like a challenge, right?
Yeah, it was a challenge. And there was only women's classes 3 times a week, so I started going to those, and I loved it. I fell in love with it immediately. And I asked the coach, I said, can I come to the men's classes too, which were the other 3 days. So I was in there 6 days a week. Immediately stopped going on Friday night so I can get up Saturday morning and run. And that coach kind of took me under his wing. You know, a coach likes to see an athlete who is showing up and, like, into it, right?
When did he know, and from your perspective, did you get a sense of when it clicked that you were serious about it and he therefore put more energy and effort into you?
4 weeks. I mean, right away. It was, and I've always said I'm an extremist, and that was just like proof that I was, because I immediately did a whole 180 on everything, and I cracked down. I ended up graduating school like 3 months early instead of a year later. Just busting. Now, continuation school is not all that like challenging, but
yeah, but wait a second. I mean, that's interesting, because you're, again, going back to this role of sports, it's like something clicked in you from the sports perspective, and that literally inspired you to almost dedicate your life in every other facet of your life to succeed and move forward,
Yeah.
right?
Well, you're a bit floundering right at that point in your life, and then you find purpose with some
purpose.
form.
That's exactly what I found. Is I found a purpose. I found something I was really passionate about. And to this day, I'll tell any young person, like, the most important thing you can do in your young life is just find something you're passionate about. And society wants you to push you to, go to school, get a degree, do this. Society norms, and you like look past those little interests that you have as a young person, right? Like, that's not a normal career, that's not a normal job, that's not what you're supposed to do. And so I always encourage people to still pay attention to those small interests, and that's what I did with boxing. And luckily, I didn't have an asshole dad who, when I went home and said, "Dad, I want to train for the Olympics," like
supported it.
a year into boxing or less.
What did he say?
Yeah.
Like, what do you remember exactly what he said?
It went from me not coming home for weeks at a time, right? Asshole boyfriends, like literally my dad couldn't get a hold of me, didn't know where I was, just gone. At 15 years old, right? So it went from that to me going home and saying, Dad, I broke up with my boyfriend and I want to train for the Olympics. I mean, it wasn't that sentence, but I was making a change.
How late was that? So you were training for how long in Muay Thai until you said that? Like, what?
Oh, no, this is when I'm talking about when I first walked into the Muay Thai gym.
Okay,
This is
perfect.
like, it's all kind of one. I'm talking about when I walked into the gym, not
Got it.
necessarily boxing or Muay Thai.
Got it.
And yeah, he loved it. He saw a total change in me. I was obviously doing well in school. I was focused, and I was going to the gym every day. And, you know, I didn't have a car, so I would walk home from school, and then I'd got a job right across the street from my apartment, so I needed money. We didn't come from a lot of money. We lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment with 3 of us girls in one room. And so I walked across the street to my job at the hair salon. I'd put on my running shoes, and I'd run to the gym by 6 o'clock, and then I'd run home 2 miles. 2 miles there, 2 miles back. I did that every day. And so obviously my dad was going to support that versus what I was doing a year before.
And what time and when exactly? So this Olympic thing, this Olympic boxing,
Yeah.
right? It's not Muay Thai. So talk to me about when you transitioned into that and how you found purpose for the Olympics.
Yeah, so I only trained Muay Thai for about a year. I took 10 Muay Thai fights and amateur fights, nothing big. And I only took a boxing fight to better my hands because we figured we're in LA, there's tons of boxing out here. Let's just keep me busy and keep getting better. And after my first boxing fight, I just never went back to Muay Thai. There was just something about the boxing gym.
How long until your first fight? So you started at the gym at 17. How long until you had your first fight?
I took my first, maybe 3-4 months.
Okay. And then at what point? And then walk us through kind of your that career path as you go from starting at a gym, your first fight, amateur, to then moving into Olympics and
Yeah.
professional.
Yeah.
Well, I was lucky because I was in LA, and so there's tons of fighting out there, right? You have Muay Thai gyms that I could go and get a smoker at on the weekends, and you just sort of
Get a
show
smoker?
up. It's called a smoker.
What's that?
Did you say smoker or smoke rat?
It's called a smoker. It's not like an amateur fight on your record. They just have these gym on the weekends. You know, they have all these athletes come and you put your name in, tell them what weight you are, and they match you up. And it's very similar. It's like an amateur fight, but for some reason they called it a smoker in the Muay Thai world.
Yeah.
So that's what we would do. We would just show up on the weekends. Sometimes you get matched up in advance.
Show up and sign up to fight, literally.
Yeah. Sometimes you get matched in advance. You'd call and like, I know you have a show this weekend. There's tons of gyms. Eddie Heredia's gym out there. They'd have one like every other
It's
weekend.
literally like open gym and hoops, but you're fighting.
And you show up, you give them your weight class, and sometimes you get matched with someone a little lighter, a little heavier. Maybe they had more experience, and so the coaches had to agree to the fight. And then it gets to the point where you take what you can get, right? When you're really trying to get experience, take what you can get. So we took every fight we can get.
How many rounds?
This was 4 2-minute rounds.
Okay.
Which has changed, and I'll get there. But
Okay.
it was 4 2-minute rounds at the time. And yeah, so it starts off like that. And now when I first walked into the gym, and I told you this at lunch, like, I don't know what I was thinking, because it's not like there was a blueprint for me to follow where it's like, here is how you want to get to the Olympics, blah, blah, blah. If you want to turn pro, that's how you do it. We weren't even allowed into the Olympics yet. Women's boxing was not yet inducted into the Olympics. So that wasn't my vision when I decided that this is what I wanted to do with my life.
This is about 15 years ago?
About 13 years ago.
13 years ago, okay.
So that wasn't in my mind when I said, this is what I want. I want to be a professional fighter. This is what I want to do with my life. And then professional boxing promoters were not signing women at the time. They did not have women. None of them. None of them had a woman on their roster. So I didn't know what the hell I was thinking. I just knew that I loved boxing. I found a passion. I was going to figure it out along the way.
Did you like the aggressive part of boxing? Did you like the sport of it, where it's the mental side of it? Did you like all of it? Like what drew you to that, and what from your past, like as a person, like did you recognize that your personality, your mentality would be good for that particular sport?
I think it was the addiction to, if I knew that I showed up every day, I was going to continue to get better. And I was going to get better and better and better and better. And it's funny that I chose a sport like boxing, because there's no, okay, you finish learning, like you're done. It was like this challenge of like, if I show up every day, like I'm going to learn, I'm going to get better at this sport. And I don't know, I guess I never had anything like that in my life before that I was willing to study and become really good at. And I found that in boxing.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm curious about this from a boxing standpoint. How much of it is physical and how much of it is mental when you're fighting an opponent?
They're both so important.
Just as a percentage, right? Like, so
I mean, I can't even give you a percentage, because here's the thing: if you're in the gym and you train your ass off and you can be in the best shape of your fucking life, right? Better than outrunning everybody, lifting heavier, going more rounds, punching harder, and then you get into a fight and you freeze up. Coach Al calls those gym fighters. Yeah. Where they have everything in the gym.
We call those bubblegum chewers when they look good in warm-ups, right? They hit every shot in warm-ups, they're blowing bubbles, but then the lights come on and nothing happens. Yeah.
And that's really where the mental side, I think, kicks in, because there's a lot of pressure. And more so, it's different, amateurs, the Olympics, and being pro, and like being in the position I am in now. But I've had that experience. I've had those levels of pressure throughout coming up in the amateurs and competing in the Olympics and turning pro and now being a world champion. Like, I've had those levels of pressure.
Okay, so this is gold. So this is what I love, is those different levels. And for those different levels, what are you doing mentally to scale yourself, both like as an athlete physically, but even more so like the emotional, the mental, the craft of it in your mind? How are you doing that? How are you elevating both?
So in the beginning, you fake it till you make it.
Okay.
Like, hell yeah, you're nervous as hell, right? Sometimes you are doubting yourself. You're nervous. You're still exploring this new world. Like, you're still learning. You don't really have full confidence yet, and you just have to fake it till you make it. Like, and it comes with experience. That confidence only comes with experience, and like knowing you get to know yourself as a person as you grow older, but you get to know yourself as an athlete too. Like, the more time you spend in the gym, the more competition you have, the more opponents you face, the more obstacles you have to overcome. And so it just comes with time.
If, as you sit here today as one of the best in your sport, what would you tell your younger self to help fast forward that learning, right? When you say it's just experience, so now that you've had the experience, what do you tell someone who's just starting out? Or what would you tell yourself who's just starting out?
I would tell myself, because I feel like I naturally did it. So I guess now I could tell somebody else. And it's really, you got it. You can't put so much pressure on yourself, and I think that's something that a lot of athletes do. Maybe their families do it to them, their parents, whatever. They put so much pressure on yourself to like perform and be great. You have a bad day, and you let it take on to the next day, and that's not something you can do in boxing because boxing is very physical. Like you're never gonna have a perfect day every day. You just gotta let it go and move on to the next day and just keep
That's
learning.
life. I mean, that's life, right? Like we're talking about boxing, but it also like
Boxing crosses the life.
Crosses
Every aspect.
Let me ask you. I'm also curious on the confidence thing because I think that is another nugget in life. Like if people had more confidence, they're going to do better things in their life. And a lot of people have that self-doubt, but they're never able to recover. They're never able to fake it till they make it. They have this self-doubt and they let that control their life. So how do you improve your confidence? And also when you're in a fight and you get punched, like that change, or you have that self-doubt, or did I train it hard enough? Or like, how do you change it? Like, are you aware of your confidence at certain times, or how do you work on that? How do you improve that? Or how did you?
Well, in the beginning,
I'd imagine winning helps.
Winning does help, but as an amateur fighter, you fight so often that I didn't win every single fight.
I was going to say, when was your first lot? Like Muay Thai, was there a time where you got your ass whooped?
I lost my 13th fight.
You lost your 13th.
And
was it a knockout or was it just?
No, it was just, amateur fights. It's 14-minute rounds. Things go fast, and you win some and you lose some. I had over 130 amateur fights.
Fuck.
Wow. So, and then it's boxing, so not every decision goes your way, and sometimes it should. So there's that aspect. But, I mean, what was the first question you asked? The confidence. And so what I would say to someone, younger than me is just don't put so much pressure on yourself. And the mind is a powerful thing. The mind is so powerful. So we get caught up and our minds race and we get negative thoughts in our head. And sometimes it's really, really hard to pull yourself out of that. And I think it just comes down to just keep showing up.
Showing up is key.
Key. You got to keep. There was days where I was like, fuck, man, can I really fucking do this? Like, I'm 17 years old, starting out in this sport. You have bad days and you want to, like, get down on yourself, but you just keep showing up, and it gets better.
And it does get better because transitioning into, I want to hit Olympics now because I feel like you have almost 3 segments in your life. You have from a fighting perspective, you have the Muay Thai, right? And now, and like you said before, there's not even an Olympic opportunity, so that's not even really in your wheelhouse right now. It can't be. But now let's fast forward to the fact where now it's recognized that women can fight in the Olympics, right? How did that, talk to me about how that happened and how did it manifest into your goal, and then we'll take it from there.
They announced it in 2010 that they were going to let women compete in the 2012 London Games. They were going to allow 3 weight classes. The men had like 10 or something. They were going to allow 3. They took 3 away from the men to give to us, which was a big deal. No one liked that. So this was 2010, which means I had been in the gym now for 2 years. And I went home and said, Dad, they're letting women compete in the Olympics, and I'm going to go for it. And he said, all right, let's do it. That was awesome. And he should have been like, they shouldn't have been. A lot of parents would have been like, you're an idiot, get your ass into college and go get a job.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so he didn't do that. He fully supported it. I was working to travel to these tournaments. You get past the point where you can just go to these shows and, now you have 30, 40 fights and no one's going to fight you because these are young kids coming up. And so now you have to go and travel to these national tournaments. And, I was working, so I'd hustle to, like, pay for these flights and whatever. My dad was so supportive. He came to my first few national tournaments with me, Golden Gloves. And
did you, where did you train? Is it always L.A.?
I was still here at I hopped around. I did because the coach that I was originally with was a Muay Thai coach. And I felt once I started boxing that he couldn't take me to the next level. So I found another coach, which is another factor of success. You have got to be able to make like tough decisions like that. And people want to say, oh, be loyal. But if that person's not going to get you to where you need to go, then you're only doing yourself a disservice.
Coaching, dating,
everything.
Business.
It doesn't matter. The people you surround yourself with, so important. Yep. Team. We'll get to that too.
Yeah.
But try to find another couple of coaches.
How did you do it? Were you like Googling on the internet, like boxing coach?
Well, no, because you know the gyms in the area because you go and spar and blah, blah, blah. And so I had a few other options that I would, go and train with. And then when I decided that I was really going to chase this Olympic dream, I was coming off like 3 losses in a row in the amateurs. And I went home one day and I was like, my dad was, I was like, I'm bummed, I just don't feel motivated to go to the gym right now because I'm losing. And I don't think that I have the right coach around me, and I just don't know what to do, and blah, blah, blah. I took off. And he goes, and my dad's awesome. He got on the computer, started searching coaches for me, because he saw this like passion and fire in me.
Well, and he also saw your life change. He literally watched you manifest an entire different recipe for success. He didn't want to have you lose that. He knew there was something there.
So he got on the computer, came home from my friend's house that day, and he goes, so there's this program in northern Michigan where you can go to college and you can train with at the time 2-time Olympic coach.
Is that at
named Al
Marquette,
Mitchell
Michigan?
In Marquette, Michigan.
Marquette. We'll talk about that later.
We do happen to know your boyfriend is named Marquette, and we're going to get to the dating app.
Talk about that later.
There's like an entertainment famous people dating app that I can't wait to talk about.
Let's hurry up. The Olympics. Come on, let's stick to the Olympics.
So he came home and told me that. I'm like, well, I guess I should be going to college now. I'm 19 and I would love to train as a 2-time Olympic coach. So sure, Dad, look into it, and I left.
How cool, though. You've mentioned your dad several different times. The support that he has shown you over the years is something that probably...
And tolerance, apparently. I mean, she's rolling around smoking cigs with bad boyfriends.
Four high schools later.
Oh, God, he was patient.
God.
Patient.
Should we do a live call and thank him right now? God. I feel like I know the guy.
Oh, he's awesome. I mean, my dad was amazing. Yeah. So he found that program for me, and if he didn't find that for me, I don't know where I would be, because 2 weeks later after this conversation, I left, was I'll do my thing, whatever. He calls me, he said, I got a hold of the coach finally, and you need to be there in 2 weeks. They want you there in 2 weeks. I'm like, really? Okay, yeah.
Holy shit. And this is consecutive with school?
Yeah, so
they got you into a school.
And who's paying for this?
So it's Northern Michigan University, and it has an Olympic training site attached to it. It's not an Olympic training center. It's an Olympic training site where they had a handful of Olympic sports. So I would get a scholarship to college.
Got it.
I didn't have money to go to college. No one was going to put me through college. It wasn't something my parents pushed on me. Like, go to college.
Was it considered a Division II or III?
It was a Division II for the other sports at the college, Northern Michigan University, but
you were separate because it was like a club
Olympic
type
site.
Okay.
So we were separate. The Olympic sports. It was like speed skating, wrestling, and
which,
boxing.
by the way, may end up with the NCAA being in the news and everything that's going on with paid athletes. That might end up being kind of a new model, anyways, where you're kind of separating more and more. But let's not get into that.
Well, football, basketball will separate.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
The NCAA will only govern the other sports.
I think so, but
interesting.
Continue. Sorry, this is cool. Yeah.
So, I went up there. I was 19 years old. I'm from LA, California, getting sent to the UP, way up.
Fucking freezing.
Way up in the northern Michigan, right? Never heard of this town called Marquette. Never heard of Marquette King either.
No, I haven't either. Yeah, don't worry about it.
And I was the only first girl on the team. Coach Al didn't want a female on the team. He's never trained a female. He always had killers on that team. Big names on that team, guys coming from, down North Philly and all these places where
Gleason's
boxing was thriving. Yeah, and he got this call from my dad over and over again, emails like, take my daughter, they're allowing women to the Olympics, you have to have a female now, blah, blah, blah. So the program was falling apart, and he only took me in because he needed to fill a space.
Oh, shit.
Trying to keep the program going.
Wow.
And I went up there, and he didn't think anything of me, really. I was a diamond in the rough. I showed up in my Ugg boots and pink juicy suit.
Yeah.
The warmest thing I owned. Like, it was just
freezing.
It was freezing my ass off.
That's Woodland Hills right to a T right
there.
The Woodland Hills.
Up at 5 a.m. running in the snow, like with the guys all the way down to the lake and back, and I'm like, she's trying to keep up with these guys.
Are you sparring with them as well?
Yeah. I ended up sparring with them too and everything, and so, but I loved it. Like, I knew he didn't believe in me there in that moment.
But you knew your passion and you set into it. And
I knew he would come around. And to this day, out of all those guys, I'm the one thriving. I'm the one who stuck with him. I'm the one who made the Olympic team. None of them did. So it was.
How did you? So you're at Northern Michigan.
Yeah, I just skipped a lot.
No, that's okay. I just want to back. It's a fascinating story. I just want to make sure we don't miss. So you're there. You're starting to train. You guys are starting to at least build rapport. How long does it take for you to? What year is this? How long do you have to try to make Olympics? How does it work?
This is 2010 when I went up there, and the Olympic trials were like the end of 2011.
Okay.
Right? So not much time, and he knew that was my goal. Everyone that was amateur on that team, so that was everyone's goal, right, to make the Olympic team.
Sure.
And he's had 10 Olympians already. He's raised 10 Olympians, so. I was his 11th when I finally made the team. Wow. But anyway, 2012 Olympic trials are coming up. I ended up qualifying for Olympic trials.
How does that work?
You have to place in the top tournaments throughout the year, right? So they take
How many tournaments?
There was
in general, like 5, 6.
There's only like 3 major tournaments a year.
So you don't have a lot of if you lose, you're out basically,
You're
right?
every step of training for the Olympics and qualifying for the Olympics is so stressful because one loss and you're out. It's over.
One loss and you're out.
You don't get to the next level. They don't take a whole team. They take one person per weight class. And so I can't remember how the qualifying process that year was so long ago. Basically, I qualified for Olympic trials. Only 8 girls qualify in the U.S. per weight. And I qualified, and I ended up, this is when I won Coach Al over, is when I lost the second day to Queen Underwood, the 2012 Olympian. And she wasn't won yet, but she goes on to win this tournament. But I lose to her the second day. It's a double elimination. So I fall into the loser bracket, and I have to fight every single day to get out of the loser bracket. And I did, back to the finals. So we're facing each other again, me and Queen Underwood in the finals. And it was my 6th fight of the week. I've never fought 6 times in a row.
6th fight of the week.
Had only been, we fight every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it was the finals, I was still only 3 years into boxing, 4 years into boxing. So I really wasn't, I had never fought that 6 days in a row. I was sore. I was fatigued. I go in there. I lose to Queen Underwood by 2 points. And, the first thing that I got out of that ring, and Coach Al just hugged me, and he said, don't be upset. Like, I've never had a fighter crawl their way out of the loser bracket all the way back to the finals like you did.
Dope.
And so he said, just stick with it, and we'll make 2016 Olympics. And so immediately, like within seconds after that loss, we knew that 2016 was our goal.
Was your time.
Yeah. So think about it, like to have that mental focus for another 4 years.
Yeah.
Because you're so close.
So close.
And then you lose. And I mean, that
Well, and then,
know it can happen
And you have to
again.
maintain, at that point, you had to maintain your amateur status, right?
You got to stay number 1 on the team. You got to stay top ranked.
and you're not making money, right?
You're not making any fucking money.
Right. There's no endorsement. So amateur
No.
means just
well,
for
they changed that. They did allow you
Right.
to accept endorsements.
But at the
just
time.
recently, but at the time,
the
you
time,
can't make money,
No,
right?
at that point, I got my first endorsement deal at 2013,
Okay.
the year after.
Oh,
But
okay.
still, they're not. No one's knocking on our doors
Yeah.
as boxers. Like they're knocking on Simone Biles' doors. Okay, no one.
Yeah.
It's very. It's not. It used to be an Americanized sport, but it really isn't anymore. And so the endorsements weren't coming our way. You make the national team. Number 1, you get like $1,000 a month. Number 2, I think you get like $500, and then you fall below that, and you don't get anything, and you're training all the time.
And you can fall at any time, right? It's not like you have a 1-year contract. Like
You win nationals, and you win the U.S. nationals, and you have your spot for the year.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's complicated. It's messy.
it's fine.
New people come in to take over, and the rules change, whatever. So I knew right away I was going to go for 2016. So what I did was, at this point, they cut the funding. I had lost my scholarship. They didn't have the program there anymore. Everyone went home, and I said, "Well, I'm not going to leave you. Like you're the one who's going to get me.
You're going to get me to where I need to be.
Where I need to be. Like I'm staying." So I moved. I got moved up to Marquette, Michigan. No scholarship. I just got an apartment, and
Were you there the whole 4 years?
yeah, I was there the whole 4 years to get ready for 2016.
So you get to 2016, then walk us through the Olympic experience.
Okay, well, I make the 2016 team, but it's actually crazy because I lost again in the finals.
Well, how does that work?
Double elimination, right?
Oh, okay.
So I beat the girl, my toughest opponent in that. She was the youth world champion. Everyone thought that she was going to win this tournament. Even though I was the number 1 seed, everyone thought she was going to kind of be the upset and take over. And she was strong. She's a strong fighter, Mexican style. And
What does Mexican style mean?
They just keep coming. Very aggressive. They keep coming. Big shots. And you got to be a good boxer to keep them off of you, right? So I beat her the second day. Close fight. And then we go to the finals, and my arms, I can't move my arms.
A dead arm?
My arms are dead. And I don't, to this day, it's never happened to me. Coach Al thinks it was the nerves. I'm like, I don't know, Coach. I could not punch. I just felt like my arms were gone. She wins that fight. And so now I'm sitting there in the locker room, like crying, thinking, like, I can't believe I'm right back in the same position that I was in 2012.
You've come full circle, and yet.
Yeah, and I can't believe it because if this happens again, I'm not going for another 4 years. Like,
No.
what? No.
This is it, yeah.
So I had to pull myself together. It was a crazy night. I had to pull myself together.
Let's talk
and-
about that for a second.
Yeah.
Let's stop right there. Like, so walk me through that night. I'm really curious because this is a big moment in your life.
this
Maybe
is life.
the moment.
Yeah.
This might be the moment of your
It's
career.
the moment. Yeah, for sure. So
Okay, so walk us through that night.
I felt defeated. Like I literally felt defeated. I was sitting there in the locker room like this, like in tears, and because we had to, do our drug tests after, and the girl Jahira was sitting next to me on the phone with her friends, like and her family, like all
Excited,
happy, and I'm
pumped,
like
yeah.
just in like I'm just looking at Coach. I can't believe this is happening. I felt defeated, and I was like, I don't know what to do because I didn't feel right. I didn't feel good. It wasn't like I gave it my all, and it was like I don't know what is happening. How is this happening to me? I went back to my room. I had to make myself I was so sore. My body hurt. I had to make myself an Epsom salt bath to try and recover. And I didn't even want to do the Epsom salt bath. Like I was like, I didn't even want to do it. I just wanted
fuck
to
it.
lay down, go
Yeah.
to fucking bed. And I was like, And the next morning, I told myself, okay, Mikaela, you're just going to go in there and you're going to do the best you can. And if you don't win, then you don't deserve to make the Olympic team, and it is what it is. But you just go there and do the best you fucking can. I had to, like, take the pressure off myself and just say, fuck it. Who fucking cares at this point? Like, I don't even know how I did it, but it was just like
instead of gloves are off, gloves are on.
Yeah, gloves are on. Coach Al brought in his friend trainer because he said maybe she needs a different voice. I need to, like, do something to trigger her.
When was that? That was in the morning?
Yeah.
When you're getting ready for the fight?
Yeah, he's like, I want you to come hold the pads for her, warm up with her, and be in the corner with me. He just thought anything would, like, kind of trigger me. Yeah.
Did that work, or is that...
I think it helped a little bit.
Yeah.
At this point, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go in there. And when I walked into that ring, the game plan just clicked in my head for some reason.
Something just happened.
Because she was an aggressive fighter, and she kept wanting to throw a big bomb, just like
challenging
right hand
you.
overhook. So I'm like, just roll her punches. Let her come to you and roll and make her miss and run to the ropes. And I picked that up the second round. It was 4 rounds. So I just started rolling, and then coming back, and then rolling, and then coming back. And it sounds so easy, like, well, duh, why would you roll?
But like they say, everybody has a plan until you get hit in the mouth, right? I mean,
and you fight everybody different. It's a sweet science. Like, you don't fight everyone the same. That's why there's game plans for a reason. The game plan just clicked in my head, and I started rolling and coming back and rolling and coming back. And
she couldn't adjust. So you're making your strategy known, and then
it's like you have presence. All of a sudden, you're present in the ring. You have presence, and that's what you're talking about. It clicks. It was like a presence of recognition of you're here. You have the plan. You know what you're gonna do.
It also comes down to what I said, taking the pressure off you. I had to tell myself just let it go.
Because if you're in your head, you're probably not able to strategically think, right? Like the pressure of the Olympics gets to be
that's
so much.
That's where freeze comes, right?
That's where you freeze. Yeah, everything. So I just had to, like, take that pressure off of myself.
What about your body?
Fight.
So the Epsom salt bath was was your body, like, did you relax and you were able to punch?
Oh, it was part of making weight too. You know, I had to make weight. In the amateurs, you need to make weight every day. So I had 8 after my fight and fueled up, and then I had to kind of take a bath and get all out. And
so you win the fight. And then that qualifies you. Right?
Qualifies me.
And now what happens?
Qualifies me for the qualifiers.
Oh, shit.
It's not like when you guys watch the Olympic qualifiers on TV and you see them run, they're qualified for the Olympics. It's not like that with boxing. Winning Olympic trials only gets you out of the United States.
It allows you to fight. Oh, my God. Okay.
Then you have to go to the international qualifiers because not every country can qualify for the Olympics, right? So then we go to the international qualifier, and it's in Argentina.
How long do you have to rest or train between?
We had our Olympic trials pretty early on, so we had about 6-7 months before we had this next qualifier, and usually you have to place like top 2 or 3 at this tournament to qualify for the Olympics. When we get there, they tell me, so because South America is the hosting country, they get to select someone to automatically go, and they chose, so because that's on our side of the world, our qualifier, you have to win the whole tournament to qualify for the Olympics. Everyone else has to place like top 3.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, fuck, of course they did this to me. Of course this is falling in my lap, like, win the whole thing. And I did. I went in there and I had 4 tough fights against the top girls in the world. Yeah, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Dominican, and
Jesus.
One more. Canada.
Okay. So you literally you just ball out, you win, and now you're in that, and now you're in the Olympics, right?
I'm qualified.
That's not even, you're not medaling there. You're getting the opportunity to now compete at the most elite.
How many people make it to the Olympics? Like, for your weight class?
1, right?
1 from the United States.
No, but how many countries are you competing against?
12.
Okay, so it's just a bracket single elimination.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you have what? How many fights? 6. You end up fighting.
No, I would have 4
in the Olympics.
4. Yes.
Got it.
Okay. Yes, 4.
So come to the Olympics. Come to London. Where are we at now?
No, not in London. We're in Rio.
I'm in Rio. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. I get stuck in London.
You've been talking for 4 years. Okay.
I get stuck in London sometimes. I was there for those Olympics. It's bad stories.
Oh, you were? Oh, yeah. I was there too. They took me as a training partner.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I ended up getting to Rio, and it really was underwhelming for me.
Underwhelming.
Yes, underwhelming. For a lot of reasons, but first off, it was the first time a South American country was hosting the Olympics. We're not prepared to
travel. The transportation was a mess.
They didn't have the money. They didn't have.
What about the village? Was it?
The village was like. It wasn't a village. It was a place the athletes stayed and slept. So I didn't get that really Olympic experience. I felt like I was just at another tournament overseas somewhere.
Yeah.
And despite that, when you make the Olympic team as a boxer, you're taking a second from Olympic trials all the way up until a year later, till Olympics. I'm training with a different coach. I didn't have Coach Al. They move to Colorado Springs. They put you with the U.S. team, and not to say anything bad about the coaches or the team, but it's not what I was.
It's not your chemistry.
Doing.
It's not your chemistry.
It was a whole different style. We had just hired a coach from Ireland. European style compared to the American style was completely different.
Oh my goodness.
So Coach Al was just livid. He just hated the way I was boxing. But like to me, I'm a good student, so I was doing what I was told. I was trying to take in what I was being told as an athlete, and they're my coaches, and that's what I have to work with. And so my style definitely changed. I mean, I was not boxing the way that Coach Al had me boxing.
When you did box in the Olympics, though, and I understand you're saying you see yourself as a student, therefore can amend whatever you're trying to learn to be able to perform, right? But did you, as an athlete, go, okay, certain things are just not going to work, so you had to kind of do a hybrid of who you were, or
I didn't do that. I wasn't able to do that because
one or the other.
boxing is repetition. So when you're in the gym constantly going over and over these moves, when you're in the fight and your adrenaline kicks in, it's all muscle memory now. You're doing how you're going to train, you're going to fight how you trained. And so I can only do that to so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's kind of a life lesson too, right? You're going to perform how you train, and it's muscle memory. It's doing the same thing over and over and over and over, and that's where people get discouraged, is that it takes a lot of work. People want the magic pill, they want the supplement, they want the easy way out, and it just comes down to your training. It comes down to having like the discipline to do it over and over and over.
People get bored with boxing. It's not as fun as everyone thinks. You got to keep in the gym. You know, they get bored. Even when Marquette came to train with us, he's like, well, I want to spar into this. I'm like, dude, you're not allowed. He's like, oh. I'm like, this is it. This is it every fucking day. It's the same.
So training wise, so I'm curious on your training. Your training, did it change with the Olympics, or was your training the same from a nutrition standpoint, from a conditioning standpoint? What was there anything different in your Olympic training?
When I made the Olympic team after trials, moved to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, and you're putting through a whole new coach. Everything's different. The whole system is different. I mean, the way they ran was different. The way they conditioned was different. The sparring was different. Yeah, the food was fine at that point. I was still, I was younger and skinnier, and it was just easier for me to make weight. That wasn't a huge ordeal at that time.
Were you still 130?
I was fighting at 132 in the amateurs. Yeah.
Okay.
And so.
Usually you can't ask a woman's weight, but this is very appropriate.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Today.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm going to do that tonight. I'm just going to say, hey, see how that works.
Don't.
Yeah. It's their first dating advice.
Just slip behind her after you ask.
So everything was different. Everything, and I didn't have that voice. Coach Al, that voice that got me through so many tough tournaments, that kept me disciplined, and I was still learning, I was still growing. I still needed that voice.
Well, let's transition though. So let's hit your third segment, because you're Olympian, you've made a goal, you've medaled, right? I mean, you do medal, right?
No, I don't medal.
Oh, okay, so talk to me about it.
I win my first fight, and then I go up against the Russian.
Straight out of Rocky IV. Yeah.
Hold on, look directly into that camera with that look.
And then I go up against the Russian. And we know what kind of trouble the Russians are in right now. There's that.
There's a little bit of that.
I lost on a split decision. Really, really close fight.
Damn.
And to this day, you guys, and I'm healed from my Olympic experience, because I'll say it was not a good one. I have not watched that fight.
Really?
Have not gone back and watched that fight. I left it there in Rio, and
we had he's an ex-49er, and he dropped 2 punts in a playoff game that cost the 49ers that playoff game. And we asked him, we said, what impact did that have? Did you rewatch it? And he said, no, I didn't watch it either. But he wouldn't take it back. He wouldn't take that experience back. He actually kind of leaned into it.
He articulated a lot about it.
He articulated a lot and what the impact it had on his life, and because we were curious, like we were talking to him about it. We're like, hey, would you want to take that back? That's like the worst football experience of your life. He's like, no, it was the best. Because it changed my life. Had a really,
because it inspired him to know what he wants, to know what he needed to get to where it needed to be. It put him in a different level. So that's where I'd like to step on right now.
That's me too. And it wasn't just that fight. It was my whole Olympic experience. I mean, they always tell you, keep your family at a distance, don't have any distractions, blah, blah, blah. I kind of had all of it. I had a lot of things going on in my family, and the guy I was dating at the time kind of showed up and just made things a hassle for me. My nutrition wasn't very good there. Like, I was really underweight, and again, I was boxing a style that I didn't like, and I lost. I didn't get a medal, and it just, it really, really, really made me think, like, whoa, I just trained for how many years for that experience?
Yeah.
Not medaling is one thing, but the experience in so many different ways personally for me, and it's not an excuse for why I didn't medal. It's just that my whole Olympic experience was just like, ew. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
And guess what that did? That
Inspired you.
sparked my mind to say, okay, what now? Because
Yeah.
you're not going to go and do this again. It didn't
But that's
make you
it,
happy.
right? That's it. Is that people go through that experience and they go one direction or the other, right?
Yeah.
It either sparks you into greatness or it can manifest into worse things, and
Well,
just
it can manifest into doubt.
Well, momentum goes both
Yeah.
ways. Momentum can go either direction, and so that's a pivotal moment. Do you remember what you did or how you kind of handled that situation that made you go from, okay, I need to make some decisions to get better or to do something with this career?
Okay, so I've always been a doer, right? And I've told this to people, like, it doesn't matter to stay in one place, like, that's what I'm looking for.
To be focused.
It's the most important thing you do is make a move. Make a move. Like, don't stay
Don't
stagnant.
stay static, yeah.
Don't stay stagnant. Yeah. You don't.
The worst decision is no decision.
The worst decision
Yeah.
is no decision. And so I obviously was depressed. I used a little bit of time to feel sorry for myself, whatever, unwind from the Olympics. And then I went back and trained for nationals, made the team again, won the national championships. And I started thinking, like, is this what I want to do for the next 4 years? Do I really want to go for another Olympics? I didn't get everything I wanted from the last Olympics. I didn't feel fulfilled. So as an athlete, you have a clock, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be I can't be an athlete forever. I can't fight forever. And I was willing to take that risk because my Olympic experience was so unfulfilling and bad and sad to me that I was willing to take a risk. Where if it was probably really good and whatever, then I would have been like, oh, let me just stay in comfort,
I'd check a box. You check a box. If
yeah,
that
let me
was-
just do that again. Like, if I medaled, oh, it was great, let me do that again. No, I was willing to take a risk. And when I say, you may not understand what I mean by risk, but again, turning pro as a female boxer was still not a thing. Promoters still weren't signing women, so if I was going to turn pro, it was going to be tricky. Who was I going to sign with? Was a promoter going to sign me? Would I be sitting on the shelf? Would I get fights? It was still right before women's boxing was sort of taking off, and so it was a risk. I was going to leave my spot on the national team where I was living at the Olympic Training Center for free,
Yeah.
great health insurance, right? Couple few $1,000s a month as a stipend, like whatever. It's shitty, but at least it was like this comfort zone. But I didn't care about the comfort zone. I wanted to make the most I possibly could of my athletic career, and that's when I started deciding that I was going to transition to MMA.
Yeah, we talked about
Wow.
that. So there's a lot the popularity of MMA right now, and there's this conversation going on of boxing versus MMA, and as a female who's doing really well in boxing, the dollars and the notoriety, right? Part of it is your boxing, but part of it is brand and make the money part of it like that. It's a career for you, right? Like this is your career.
Yes.
So what was the thought process? Because I know we had talked on from a contractual standpoint, it got really
Everything.
close.
Yeah.
What was your thought process, or what is your thought process on MMA?
Well, the year before, Ronda Rousey called me in to be her sparring partner for the Amanda Nunes fight. And that's when I think the triggers started going, because I see, like, okay, women are getting the respect and appreciation in MMA, the TV time.
Well, in a Muay Thai background, it's not like you were exclusive
Yeah.
boxer.
So I was thinking, okay, I'm 26. I can make this happen. Like, and I was excited for the challenge. It was something new because, again, the amateur boxing, I kind of felt like I was maybe over the amateur boxing. I was ready to move on, but turning pro was the option wasn't there.
Right.
And so I said, okay, and I was fully set on making this commitment. I mean, a week or two away from signing with Bellator. And thank God that I did not do that. Nothing against MMA, nothing against Bellator.
Yeah, sure.
I was able to stick with boxing and start what I finished.
How and why? Who
Finish
did you
what I
sign
started.
with? Was it Top Rank? Is that when you did
Top Rank, yeah.
So
My
talk to
manager
us about that.
My manager called and said, listen, let's go through all the options before we make this decision. I think deep down he knew that it wasn't the best decision for me and to turn pro in MMA, and it would sort of be giving up on everything we had worked for in boxing and the strides we've made and how far I've come. And so he made some phone calls and hustled a sit-down meeting with Top Rank, which is the boxing promotion in the United States. I mean, you have a few, which is the difference between boxing and MMA, but Top Rank is one of the best. They signed Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Ray Leonard, all the greats out of the Olympics. Worked with a few females back in the day, but didn't currently have one and didn't plan to, I think, until they sat down with me. And I basically had to sit in this room in Vegas and sell myself. Like, I've always believed in myself, and I think that's another thing.
When you're selling yourself, are you selling you as a boxer? Or are you selling yourself as a character that can
human,
be marketed?
I'm selling myself as the full package. I'm saying like the Olympics gave me that resume, right? So I'm finally able to go to a promoter, which women weren't able to do in the past, and say, look, I'm a 3-time national champion. I'm a world medalist. I'm an Olympian, and also, like, I can speak well. I am marketable. I believe to be marketable in your guys' eyes, and I can actually really fight. And
Is there something as a female athlete when you're marketing? Because you're a pretty girl, and do you have to explain yourself that way? Like, does that come up when you're doing this interview process like that? Because like when you say marketability, what
does that mean?
You could put me on a poster, and you know what I mean.
You can't put you on a poster. You have a face for radio, pal.
Well, that's why we're doing a podcast.
Okay, right.
Well, I mean, that's just the society we live in. It's sad, right? Like especially as a female, a man could walk in there looking like he got ran over by a truck, and as long as he's got the skills or the resume, they're going to sign him. It's not good enough for a woman. A woman has to have the full package. I couldn't just be a good boxer. I couldn't just be an Olympian.
I have a question though, because so back to boxing as the category and anchor of sport. How do you resolve? I mean, how do you blend femininity with a combat sport? Like,
you don't force it. I just am who I am. This is just me. This is just natural, and I'm not trying to be anything but who I really am.
I am who I am.
And that just sort of fit the mold that they were looking for, I guess. And I mean, I don't know. I think
in a way, you are your brand, which is nice. I mean,
I'm not trying to force anything. It's just genuinely who I am. And I believed in myself, and I sat there and I told him, like, if there was going to be a woman to, create a market for, if there's going to be someone to create a market for women in boxing, I can do it. It can be me. I can do that.
So this is really interesting because women's boxing is obviously not as popular as male boxing, correct? And so male boxing does a really good job of the promotion side of it. Are you who does that for women's boxing? Is because they've got promoters obviously, but it's the for lack of a better term, it's like the character
of the
boxer,
it's the story leading up to, right?
Yeah.
That the drama that you create beforehand, then they want to say, okay, I want to see these guys fight, really fight,
okay,
right?
So you get the promoter, right? And that's sort of something that I've been doing now that I'm settled into my career as a pro. I'm 15-0.
Yeah.
I'm the world champion now, and I believe I'm the best in my division. So I'm calling people out. I'm creating these rivalries that women's boxing needs. Men's boxing has the rivalries, but why do people want to watch boxing? They like that. They like the drama, right? They want to see. They want to see their.
It's like the Gladiator, right?
Yeah.
You get two people in a
They want to
ring.
see people lose. They
want
want to see people
blood.
win. Like,
And the idea that you're going to see blood, and it's going. You can't run in the ring. I mean, for lack of a better term, you can't really. I mean, you kind of can a little bit, like Floyd Mayweather does it all the time.
Or just having. I was at the McGregor fight, right? And it was interesting because the guy obviously he broke his ankle. And he's sitting there, and he's yelling at the guy that he that his wife just slid into his DMs, right? I mean, so is there a line for you?
Listen, that was genius, and Rhonda tweeted.
How do you see it? Yeah, how do you see that?
She said he started selling the next fight
with a fucking broken ankle.
The next fight. That's exactly what it was.
And
he's a genius when it comes to that.
You have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, you have to.
But can you do something like that?
This is entertainment at the
exactly.
end of the day.
Part of it is entertainment.
And
exactly.
And I do. I have been creating rivalries, and there are some big rivalries in my division. There are some big fights for me coming up. But yeah, it's part of it. And it's hard because.
How did Ronda Rousey do it? Like, didn't she kind of created a brand for women?
She did, and she also had the UFC really backing her strong. Like, she sold her fight. She was great. She had this image about her, and she had the UFC backing her and pushing her. And women's boxing still needs more promoters and more networks backing
exactly.
them.
Why don't they? Because there's dollars. There's a lot of eyeballs.
There's gotta be.
Yeah.
It's a big question that we all have. Like, I'm grateful that Top Rank took a risk. They think it was a risk, and it was. I feel like I've been proving to them my whole career, every fight, that I was worth their investment, and I believe I've proved that to them. But now it's like, let's sign more women. Let's keep doing that. And I don't know where the hesitancy is. Mm-hmm. Is that a word? Hesitancy?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So on Top Rank.
Fuck you, Friday. We've made up words so many times.
Let's go to your ultimate goal though, right? Because there's, as I understand, there's 4 belts that you want to connect in a sense. Can you just go over that and where you are now and where you want to go? Because it gets confusing.
People who don't follow boxing are like, I don't get it, so many belts. But it really comes down to the 4 important belts.
Okay.
Whatever belts, fuck it, doesn't matter. It doesn't really don't matter. They might set you up and rank you and put you in line for the bigger belts. But this is a 4-belt era. It's a newer 4-belt era.
Okay.
Right now I'm the WBO world champion. I won the WBO world title back in October. And there are 3 other world titles: IBF, WBA, and WBC.
Okay.
Coming up in November, I just announced this a while back, I'm going up against the IBF champ, Mikaela Mayer from
Fucking
France.
awesome.
And so that would give me 2 belts. And then
This is your next fight in
this
November.
is my next fight in
Where is
November.
that at?
We don't know yet. We don't have
Okay.
a date. We don't have a location.
Is that a just like, is she want it to be in France and you want it? Like,
No, my promoter, it was never an argument. She's with the Matchroom promoter in the UK.
Okay.
But we got it over here in America.
Okay, cool.
That was given
non-
to us easily. It wasn't really argued. So she's going to be coming over here. And that'll give me 2 belts.
Yeah.
Winning that fight against her. She's a tough opponent. Right now she's over in Tokyo trying to qualify or trying to win a gold medal.
Sure.
So while she's manifesting her gold, I'm manifesting her belts.
Yeah, I like that.
And
I like that.
2 more belts. So
Are you watching her fights?
Do you study her?
Yeah, are you
Oh,
studying?
of course, we study. We study. Some people don't, but
Yeah.
we do because it's sweet science, right? So you want to make the fight as easy as possible. So you have a
Styles.
game plan.
Everybody's got a style.
Everyone, yeah, we want to look good. We want to make it easy. We don't want to have to get in there and fight. So we study and we come up with a game plan.
Do you want to make a proclamation that you're going to beat her ass right now?
I'm gonna beat her ass right now.
Well, not right now. Yeah, I don't want you to start getting angry right now. Don't beat anyone's
confident?
ass right now.
After this.
I do
Yeah.
feel confident, and I know that my team. I have put together the most amazing team. Like everyone,
Including your boyfriend?
Yes,
Even him
he's
too?
He's
Yeah.
a great new addition.
He's the new addition.
literally. Yeah, I think he's out there making beats right
No,
now.
it
if I
was
see him
funny
somewhere.
because right when I came down to weigh-ins late because I was cutting the
Yeah.
weight. It wasn't super hard, but it was definitely a cut, and so I came down like a little bit late, and Coach Al was like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "No, nothing, fine. I'm on weight, Coach. I just needed a couple extra minutes." He's like, "Okay," and after I made weight, he's like, "If you didn't make weight, he was gone.
Yeah.
He was gonna be out of here."
So this is a little tidbit that I don't know if you really picked up on it at lunch, but Marquette wanted to spar.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and Mikaela was like laughing at him, like.
Well, he's a punter.
By the way, well, I mean, but he's a fit
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude. And he's a fit dude. But Mikaela was just kind of laughing at him at lunch, like, "Hey, pal, like you have no idea who I am." Well, we talked before we went out to lunch, and we were like, "How much money would it take for you to punch Wynn?" Well, for him, not you. I'm sure you would just do it right now.
No,
but for him,
I get to wear the stuff though.
you already are. Like, look at that. Look at that dad
See
bod.
that, guys?
You've been. He's got a ton of protection right there.
Thank you. I need to cold sculpt it after this.
If you punch him right now in the chest, would he fall over as hard as you could?
In the chest?
Yeah.
No, you gotta go for the liver.
You do,
Well,
yeah. So liver shot would
You gotta
hurt.
go for the liver.
It would shake you to my soul.
Yeah, you gotta hit it right perfectly.
You don't have to look at.
Well,
mine.
his-
look at his.
His liver's probably not in too good
yeah,
a
my
shape.
liver's already beat up.
Oh, yeah, you
One
wanna
punch
go
to the
or
liver.
The solar plex right in the middle, right here.
Right,
That's
just
soft.
lose your- you lose
hit it
your-
yourself. Yeah.
I don't know if he has a solar plex,
Oh,
but
pal.
but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I don't think there's any plex in anything
cool.
going on with
Yeah.
him. But anyways, that's
Except calm. I'm a very complex individual, actually. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you
It's,
very
You
much.
never know. Heavyweights aren't always in the best
Heavyweight.
shape.
That is the best line. Can we cut that out? Heavyweights. She just called you a
Look at Tyson
heavyweight.
Fury.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
Tyson
true.
Fury.
Yeah,
What
I
is
could be the
Tyson
next
Fury? Like
Tyson
what?
Fury.
240? Yeah, that's
Tyson
about what you're
Silverman.
weighing these days.
Cool. Anyways, getting back to details.
Okay, so let's talk. I'm always curious in boxing, cutting weight the night before, right, and then putting it back on. That's probably a question
Yeah,
that a lot of
let's-
people have. So let's
I
talk.
really wanna know
Just talk
about
about
that.
like
How hard
your
is
fight
it?
routine. Making weight. I think I know age and weight are probably two things you're not supposed to ask one. But before a fight, you're X weight, and then you weigh in 24 hours before, and then you put the weight back on. Can you walk us through those 48 hours of cutting weight, then adding weight back on, and how that works?
So as an amateur, you fight, you weigh in every morning, and you fight that evening. As a pro, you weigh in the day before, like around 12, 1 o'clock, and then you fight the following evening. So you have a whole 24 hours and some change to like fully rehydrate and fully recover.
Yeah.
Which is why people cut more. I mean, you can't cut like that in the amateurs. You got to make weight the next day, right? So it's definitely a cut now. Getting a little older, and it's definitely a cut. Put on a lot more muscle. Now
Muscles heavier.
Muscles heavier.
So you on the day before fight or the day before weigh-in, you weigh what, and then you cut down to what?
You have to make like 130.
It's like a whole process. Okay, it's like really hard to explain in like one term, but you're basically watching your diet the whole camp, right? As it gets closer, like 4 weeks out, you're really a lot
Leading up
stricter
to weight.
leading up to your fight week. I have a nutritionist come out, perfecting athletes, and they cook for me all of fight week and monitor my water intake. One thing that people do too soon is they cut the water. You never cut the water. You take down the calories of the food, and you eat the right things, and you cut out the bad salts.
You've said that a lot. Salt is one of the big things that, from a weight perspective.
Bad salt.
Yeah.
Right? So like
There's
sea
a
salt
difference.
versus table salt. You're talking
Exactly.
about?
Exactly. You don't go out to eat when I'm watching my weight, getting close to the fight. You don't go out to eat because you
Right.
don't. It's not what you're eating. It's you don't know how it's cooked.
Right.
And so that can put you back a few days,
Sure.
whatever, a week.
Can balloon you.
Yeah, and so she comes out, cooks for me, makes sure everything I eat is clean, and monitoring everything, making sure I get all the nutrients, enough water. We don't cut water. You stay hydrated up until, I drank a half a gallon of water the day before weigh-ins. A lot of people don't do that, and that's because when I get up in the morning to cut, I usually wake up the day of weigh-ins 4 pounds heavy. That's usually my thing for the last 6 fights or so, which is normal. We plan on that, and. So we get to weight, like the 2 weeks before, we get to that weight so we know we can wake
you
up
can hit it.
4 pounds heavy. And then because we're fully hydrated still with water, we get in the bath and we cut the weight in the bath. So I'll lay into an Epsom salt bath for about
it'll just
15,
pull.
20 minutes.
I'm going to do that before the boat tomorrow.
You need to right now.
Yeah. It's a good way to detox. Models do it too. You put like Sweet Sweat or something on your body, and you sit in the hot bath, Epsom salt, for about 20 minutes. Your pores open, and then I'll get out and I'll lay under the covers and like get burritoed.
And so that's a 4 pound deal?
No, I do that like 4 or 5 times.
You have to do that to lose 4 pounds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So the first bath is all your pores is kind of getting open. Some people just sit in the bath for an hour. I don't like to do it. Everyone has their own way
Yeah,
of cutting
sure.
weight.
Is there no one's doing the sauna or anything like that?
I don't like the sauna. It's
Okay.
dry heat and whatever. Everyone has their own way of doing it.
Got
This
it.
is how I've adjusted. Even my nutritionists, other athletes, they'll do it a little different. Like some will sit in the bath for an hour and knock it all out. I like to go in and out. I like to bath, burrito, bath, burrito until I'm down to weight.
Yeah. And then you make your weight. Let's say it's 131 or whatever, right?
130 on the dot.
130 on the dot.
At
and then
130.1, lose my belt.
okay, so 130 on the
What
dot.
if you do come back at 130.1? Can you go back out and then
They
come
give
back
you about an hour to cut it, yeah.
an hour? Okay.
But what's the transition between you make your weight and now you get to sleep, right?
You make your weight. You
start eating.
What are you fighting at?
hydrate, and then wake up the next after
many pounds?
eating and drinking for the next 24 hours. I'm back up to like 147.
So you gained 17 pounds over a night?
Yes.
That's amazing.
You've done that before too.
I'll do that tonight actually.
It's not real weight though.
couple more
It's
chocolate
water weight,
martinis.
it's body manipulation. But really, what it is a detox for the body. Because we do it so healthy, we don't cut the water. We eat really clean. It's like a real solid detox for the body, and it makes you feel great.
Yeah, because that's the whole point. You want to make weight, but you also
wanna feel good.
You want to feel good because
Yeah.
you're about to fight.
Yeah,
Right.
so if you have a bad weight cut, you're not doing it properly. You
Right.
don't have like perfecting athletes is like
'Cause you
I
need
can never
energy,
make weight without them now. Like, I
energy,
need them.
strength,
You
mental
need it
clarity.
all.
You need it all. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so even like while I'm cutting weight, she's giving me certain fats and amino acids because you don't want to dehydrate the brain. You want to protect the brain.
You said something about that. Let's just touch that real quick. Fats and the brain and the vegan. There's obviously this bend towards this new veganism in athletes and your perspective at lunch was look, the issue is fats and protecting the brain. What
Yeah.
were we talking about?
So I did go vegan for like a couple of months because I love animals. That was my reasoning. And, I didn't feel great in sparring. I felt like I had no pop, and that could have been just me adjusting to the new diet. But at the end of the day, and my nutritionist explained this to me, she's like, it's really, really, really hard for us to support a combat athlete who is vegan because you're not getting enough fats to protect the brain. And someone who's vegan will say, well, we can get fats through nuts and avocados. You would have to eat like 8 avocados a day plus supplements to get enough fat that to
have that protective.
to have what animal fat can provide for your brain. And when you're getting hit, and you get hit and get a concussion, good luck recovering from it.
Do you remember the hardest that you've ever gotten punched? Do you remember the one
there a
punch?
moment
Is there a
where you're just like,
moment where you're
ouch?
like, that was the hardest I've
No,
ever
there's
been
been
hit?
a few times where you go wah 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 wah. It goes black for a little bit, and you see stars, and that's mostly in sparring that I've had that happen.
Oh, is that right?
I've never had that happen to me in a fight.
So you're
That I
fit.
can
So
remember.
you're
Maybe a little bit, but nothing like where it was really, really like whoa. I felt
Before we let you get out of here, we got to have some
Yeah.
fun, right?
Okay.
So, okay, so we've talked about your career. We talked about where you're from, your dad, your coach, a lot of impactful people.
Cool life story.
It's a great life story. You've had a great,
Awesome.
great life. But now let's have some fun. Okay, so we talked about Raina.
Oh, Rhea, let's talk about let's
Right.
talk about like
Yeah, we're
dating
going to talk about
in Marquette.
dating
Yeah,
as a
good. Yeah, I like
professional
this.
boxer, professional
I
athlete,
feel much better now.
or
Pressure's off me for being fat. Okay, go ahead.
Not really. You got to live with it.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so let's walk me through like being an athlete who's a fighter, who's a female, and what that looks like for you from a dating perspective, or how it's gone for you with guys.
How'd you meet Marquette?
No. Let's start before Marquette. We're gonna get to Marquette, but
good.
I'm always curious. Like,
Let's start
it's a
before
little,
and end after.
It's a little intimidating, right? Like from a guy's
Yeah.
perspective, like what's your dating pool look like when you're a boxer?
So I was single for a long time. You know, I had someone that I was dating when I was training for the Olympics, and you know, that's the person who went to Rio with me, and he was an athlete too, and I don't know where the ego comes in with the guy, but he definitely had an ego, and I don't know how much me being successful in making the Olympic team versus him played into that at all. But I guess that is a factor. I don't know. I'm not worried about their feelings. Like, I'm over here
doing my
having
thing.
to fight bitches, so
Yeah.
whatever. And then
Figure your shit out, pal.
after
Trying to fight bitches. Make sure we quote that.
after the Olympics, I was single for a while. You know, just focused. I was single for about 3.5 years.
Because you said you had some bad boyfriends, right? Like just
Yeah,
some
I had
terrible
some
fucking people in your
asshole
life. Yeah.
boyfriends, like definitely.
Well, there are moments in your life where you kind of attracted that, right?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it
I was
seems
about to
like
say I had to work through some toxic
some
traits.
things that you worked through. Actually, it gravitated the type of individual that you've gravitated towards now, ostensibly, which is a more a centered human being in Marquette King, right?
Okay, so how you met Marquette King through a dating app for entertainment people? It's called Raya.
It's called Raya, yeah.
Raya.
So when I decided that, I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm ready to start dating again. You know, I have my stuff together. Like, I just bought a house, and
Awesome.
I feel like, you know, I was living on my own, and I had done that. I've been living alone for like 3 years now, so I had done that work, that like inner work that you need. And I think living alone and being alone, spending that time alone is so important. Like, I don't believe in getting married young. I don't believe in like rushing into these relationships with no autonomy. And so I spent that time, and when I decided I was ready to start dating again, I'm like, what am I gonna do? Get on Tinder? Because no, I'm not gonna get on Tinder. Like, I just didn't feel like that was gonna suit me. And I was constantly on the go, traveling, whatever. And so and living in Colorado Springs, and like the type of people in Colorado Springs, like really wasn't the type of guys I was like looking to date.
Right.
Still like a developing city and
Hairy,
whatever.
a little hairy. Itch a lot. Yeah.
I don't know what type of people
They
are
don't use
there.
deodorant. Yeah.
Maybe in Denver, but I wasn't in Denver. I was in
Denver's totally different than
Marquette
Colorado
was in
Springs.
Denver at the time, though.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. He doesn't like
Okay.
Denver.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just kidding.
So I was like, my friend told me about this dating app for people in the entertainment business called Raya, where like you can maybe meet people more who like kind of live a similar lifestyle as you and travel and kind of have like a career maybe like mine, like an athlete or something like that. And I thought I wanted to date an athlete because I figured, okay, I'm an athlete. I like athletics, and I like someone who understands the game and wants to be fit and whatever.
Yep.
And there's lots of athletes on Raya. But I started, you know, swiping through, met a couple people on there, whatever, nothing serious. And I was up in training camp before my last fight in October, Marquette, Michigan.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there swiping, and
sense.
I'm like,
Like,
Marquette.
Kind of have to.
You have to at least
Gotta
for
go
one.
right.
At least for one fight.
I was like, yeah, it was like I didn't really have the option. I'm like, oh, you know, he's cute, okay, he's an athlete. I'm like, well, I can't even swipe because I was over this app at the time, actually. I was like on the way to delete it, so I was kind of just being an asshole. And I was like, well, his name is Marquette. Like, fuck it.
It's kind of funny.
Let me just see. It's kind of funny.
It's greatness.
And I think like he matches with me maybe a week or two later, and he said, hey, what's going on? I'm like, I'm actually in Marquette training right now. And came out to my fight in October, and the rest is history.
That was how long ago?
That was October. So.
Okay, so October. So we're in July right now.
8 months, right?
And at lunch we
the
started
longest-
at lunch we
that's-
started talking about
a long time.
at lunch we started talking about the females are starting to ask
Yeah.
the guys for their hand.
I've
in
never
hand.
sat at
Yeah.
a table full of men
no.
all talking about their getting proposed to. And
Yeah, I'm
that's
looking
literally
forward to.
what I was
I'm looking
saying.
forward to my
Like,
proposal.
First of all,
I'm looking
just
forward to
for
my
the-
proposal.
Just for the record, I did not. Just so we're
But
clear.
the fact that it was like a topic that it was just funny.
I
It was
think
just like-
I
It's a
think
new
in this
trend.
era it makes sense. I fully support being proposed to instead of having proposing. But anyway,
We're gonna cut that clip out and send it to his girlfriend. Yeah.
Cool. Sorry, Rachel. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. It's been awesome. I just want to say that it's been really, really fun, and thank you for coming and taking the time. And I can't wait to have dinner and talk about more proposals. That'll be really fun
Yeah.
tonight.
I don't know,
Congratulations on all your
Marquette's
success. That's a great
Really
story.
awesome.
Yeah.
WBO champion,
Thanks.
Mikaela Mayer. Check it out. By the way, this is Fuck You Friday. Thank you very much for listening. Please download us on any platform that you fucking want to. We're on everything. We're on everything. So download us, like us, do whatever you want. The DMs, we should actually probably at some point respond to some of those DMs. We appreciate that, and we'll get to that as well. But thank you very much. And
follow Mikaela on all the social.
Yes.
On all your
I'm
socials.
on Instagram, Mikaela Mayer, Twitter, Mikaela Mayer, the number one.
Number one.
Awesome.
Okay,
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you.